Hello, episode 22, Lane 1 Talk Show, recording here April 11th, 2025. Mark, great to have you back. How you doing?
Doing good, man. It's been a while. What's it been, like 7 weeks at this point?
It's been a minute.
We got our unwavering supporters waiting on us to talk.
I know, dude. And that's not even, that's not even a joke. Like, I do have people, hey, where's the next episode? Where you guys been?
Hey, that's good to know, man. That's good to know.
So sometimes hiatuses happen. I know I've been busy, you've been busy, and we're gonna get into that. But how are you doing overall?
Overall, pretty good. Like to shout out our unofficial sponsor for this episode, but if they do want to sponsor us, it's Corona non-alcoholic edition, because you know we're winners. I went to the grocery store today to pick up this six-pack because today was my intern's last day. Shout out George. He's probably not listening to this, but it was his last day, and his ask was, can we have beers for our final one-on-one? For me, it was 10 a.m., so I was like, I ain't about to have a real beer, but I'm going to go ahead with the non-alcoholic. And I roll up to the grocery store at like 8 a.m. to pick these up before my day starts. And the lady goes, what's the occasion? And I tell her like the whole spiel that I told you about my intern's last day. And she goes like, oh yeah, I'm sure you would never drink those in your lifetime. And me sitting there like, yeah, I actually drink non-alcoholics. I felt like that was a little bit of a dig, but we do have a workout tomorrow, pretty robust one. Yep. It's my first longer session back with the team since getting back from Denver, so want it to be a good one, so I didn't really want the poor quality sleep or anything like that.
Yep. Good call.
Yeah.
Good call. Myself, I had a jogathon today at the school. And that was fun. I volunteered, took the day off of work and helped out. It was fun, man. It was a reminder. I mean, you remember field days back in elementary school, how fun they were,
Yeah. Do they raise money based off the number of laps that they do? Is that still
it was just flat donations. They've kind of pivoted away from the laps because it was like it's hard to like track that for a bunch of kids. So it was a flat donation, but it was still based on like you participating in the jogathon and making a pledge and getting people to pledge.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it was
your childhood. I'm glad to see that they still have stuff like that, man, because those are like core childhood memories for me.
Those are core childhood memories, dude. And basically, because I volunteered, I was there the whole day at the school, and they had like recess, and they went back in the classroom for a little bit, and they came right back out and did the jogathon for the rest of the day, and we had a picnic on the playground with them afterwards. So it was really fun, and it's super cute that Scott Bouse is a guy that who's on our squad, and a lot of people know who he is. A very successful runner himself. Him and his son and my son go to the same school, so it was like kind of cool because they kind of had little bib numbers. They kind of like but they wrote, but it was on the back. It was on the back because that's where they tally the laps.
Oh, okay.
So they it was just kind of like because I raced Scott back in college when he was at Chico, like at the Stanford invite and stuff like that. So it was like a weird sort of throwback to our days 20 years ago.
Hey man, I'm looking forward to this rivalry, man. Ethan and Calvin. That's gonna be the state meet in like 2038 is gonna be crazy, dog.
Oh man. Yeah, they're and they've been on some teams together too. They play basketball, and yeah, they're buddies. But yeah, that was that. And then I got I want to do your guys' robust workout tomorrow, but we have a baseball game. So, in summary, I'm kind of in my boy dad era.
Hey.
Where my child has a lot of stuff going on, but
hey, no deadbeats here, bro. No deadbeats here. Hey,
no, man.
My guy Raj is the deadbeat dad. So.
Oh, is he?
Oh yeah, dude, he's a total deadbeat. But yeah, no deadbeat dads here.
Not here. Just on the playlist when we travel.
No, that's divorce dad. That's different. We ain't deadbeats, bro. Just the stepdad. He's got the nicer house. He takes the kids to amusement parks on his day off. Like, us, bro, we be going to the park. We be going to the jogathon. We don't be doing that kind of. We don't got that kind of money. That's our lane.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, but that's kind of what I got going on. But I do wanna hear about what you were doing up in Colorado at training at altitude for the past what 6 weeks, 7 weeks,
I did 5 weeks while I was
5
up there.
weeks.
Yeah, this is my first week back in slow, but yeah, I basically just went to Denver. The backstory behind why Denver in particular was because my buddy Raj Palapanu, shout out Raj. Hey, watch them shoes, buddy. But like, so my boy Raj, he has been telling me for like about a year now that I need to go visit him in Denver, and he just kept kind of like hyping up the city a little bit in terms of like, yeah, dude, I paid X amount for my place, and like I can actually own here. Like my mortgage is X amount versus like your apartment rent and stuff like that, and also like in terms of just overall like, yeah, you should come hang out because we also live very similar lifestyles, like um just um both being competitive runners. He's more on the ultra side, I'm still on the track side, probably going to move into the longer stuff. He and I would talk all the time and stuff like that, so he kept saying like, yeah, you should come visit, like make it a real stint. So I was like, all right, cool, like I'll go visit you. And it got to the point where it just like kept getting pushed on and pushed on and pushed on and pushed on. But so finally I told him like, yo, March 1st I'm pulling up, like for real. And he was like, I'll see it when I believe it.
Oh
So
man,
so literally sent him a screenshot like, yo, I'm on my way. And he's like, BS, I don't think you are. And then like saw my Instagram story, I'm in Utah, and he was like, holy crap, like you're actually pulling through.
wow,
So
that's
yeah,
cool.
just got in my car, drove out to Colorado. Um, got to see a few of the different areas. So I stopped in Utah for a little bit around like Park City just to
Mm.
kind of check that out. Salt Lake City. Hey man, the Mormons are gatekeeping. I'm gonna tell you that, man. Like Utah is so nice.
Is it?
Like, yeah, driving through Salt Lake, driving through Park City, even had a good time in Cedar City.
Oh,
So it was overall a pretty good experience. But I got to Colorado, um, hopped into training. I guess you're not supposed to do workouts for the first 7 days, and I effed that up.
mm,
Like I instantly started doing like double thresholds and stuff like that just because like one thing that I learned was it's a lot harder to do those like longer sessions even though I'm only at like 5,000 feet. Like that's technically you want to be above 6,000, but like even at 5,000 it was a lot harder to do like our staple Joe Rubio type workouts. So like looking at the calendar, if we had 4 by mile at 10K, 800 at 5K off a short recovery, like, bro, I cannot do that.
mm,
Like, I wasn't acclimated to do that. So it was almost easier to like do a bunch of threshold work, especially while I was out there. And just so what I would do is Tuesday mornings, usually it was in the AM, I would do 4 to 5 by like 6 minutes on, 60
mhm,
seconds standing recovery on the treadmill. So, and I started like my first workout at 520 pace, dude, and I rigged.
mm,
It was god awful. Like I did terrible. I had to back off to 540 pace or like
mm,
550 pace. But and then the PM session, I'd come back and do like 400s at 75. So off of 30 seconds rest. So I kind of just like was like, all right, this is a bunch of garbage work. Like I don't know that I'm getting any benefit of it. But like as the weeks kept going on and on and on, I was replicating it. Like those Tuesday sessions got to the point where my AM sessions, and again, I'm using heart rate here as like a baseline because when I did do lactate testing at sea level, like I knew what kind of paces and what kind of heart rates like to be at. So I kind of just used that heart rate based off of the lactate testing to see where I needed to be. And normally, like for LT1, a good zone for me is be like right around 160 to 162 for my heart rate.
mhm.
And for LT2 was like right around 168 to 170.
And
So
what pace is that typically at sea level for you for that LT1?
usually about like 515.
5:15. Okay, so that's gonna
Yeah.
be your marathon ish.
Yeah. So it's like marathon pace. And then it also like, not to get too scientific with it, but like it also depends on the duration of the rep and the rest, right?
Right,
Because
right,
it's like when you can recover. But for like those longer 2K repeats, it was about like 515 pace
right.
to 2 mile repeats. So like while I was up there, by the time I was on my last week of doing double thresholds up there, like my marathon pace was back down to 515 to 520 to where my heart rate was at the zone that I wanted it to be. And then for the 400s, my heart rate was in the zone of where I wanted it to be, like around 70, 71. So I was starting to hit my sea level times at altitude as time
Okay.
started going on at the same efforts that I would at sea level. And I was starting to recover the same. And like, I wasn't going into the well, I wasn't going into holes. Like, and most of my intervals that I was doing, they were starting to replicate what I would normally do at sea level. So I was like, okay, yeah, like I am acclimating, I am making gains out here. I am improving a lot aerobically because it got to the point where I can start doing where my first really long session I did out there was a 3x2 mile. And I averaged around 5:15 pace
Hmm.
on those 2 miles. And I thought I was a fucking baller because it was like headwind and like hills. So I was like,
Yeah.
that was a real good workout. But by the end of it, my very last workout I did in Denver the night before I drove back to San Luis Obispo was a 6 mile straight tempo.
Hmm.
The difference was it was snowing 19 degrees
Hmm.
and like
Oh yeah,
15,
I remember. Yeah, yeah, you told me about this. Yeah,
yeah, 15-mile-an-hour winds.
50.
Like it
Oh, so it
was,
was windy. So was there part? Did you do it on a loop?
yeah, it was a 2.5 mile loop.
So was it at least at your back some of the time?
Yeah, it was on my back some of the time. So,
But I don't know. I don't know about you, but like when on loop courses like that, I always feel like the you don't get the aid. The aid doesn't make up for the friction of the fan that you're running into.
yeah, and that's the problem is like when you do run into the friction of the fan, like what ends up happening is you spike your heart rate and it
Yeah,
doesn't come back down.
yeah.
So you got to be really careful when you are hitting like a hill or you are hitting like a headwind because if you push the effort too hard, and that was like one of the things I experienced in my early on sessions there was like if I hit a hill in a workout and I pushed it a little too hard, your heart rate just does not come back down. I'll plug you in the Strava data so you can just like drop it, but like so you can just like drop an image of it. But like I was doing
Hmm.
400s one of my first sessions, but I did it like minute on, minute off.
Hmm.
And actually, no, I did 0.25s on my GPS. And there was one where I hit an uphill and I kept trying to push through it. And I was doing 20 by 400. And around number 16, I hit the hill on this 2 mile loop or 2.5 mile loop. And on that hill, my heart rate never came back down for the rest of the workout. Like even on my offs, on my recoveries, like the heart rate just never came back down. It stayed at 170 for the rest of the workout, like as if it was a tempo, even when I was like jogging the rest in between.
That's fascinating. Does that typically happen at specific paces? Like, is it typically longer tempos or longer races that phenomenon of like when you, because we talked about that too about gels, right? If you take a
Yeah.
gel and you need to really get it down, because if you have to hold your breath for too long, you spike your heart rate and it won't come back down. I remember you telling me about
Yeah.
that when we were doing marathon training. And is that typically at those LT1, LT2 paces,
I'm not sure that it has to do with the pace, but more so with the intensity.
the
Like,
intensity?
yeah. And just because, like, if you're not recovering at that pace or you spike your heart rate, like, let's say I'm going to say, for the sake of what we are talking about, like, yeah, if you are doing something consistent, it's kind of like a tempo.
Hmm.
Like, if you ever look at your Strava data or anybody looking at their heart rate data, when you are doing a tempo, it's a gradual climb. It rarely goes up and down if you're doing a sustained tempo. But if you're doing like a fartlek or you're doing something with like short rest in between, you'll see it'll go up and then on the recovery start to dip and then go back up, especially fartleks. So like for me, doing these 400s with a 45-second float, that is a fartlek. So I would do a minute or like 75 seconds on the road. And then when I take my rest, it plummets down in 45 seconds back down to 130 and then goes back up. But when I hit that hill and you hit that point to where your body just can't recover because of probably because of the elevation, like you can't, your body's not oxygenating itself, so your heart's still trying to pump blood to like make sure that you're not dying.
Hmm.
And at that point, it kind of just held steady the rest of the workout, and I was just like, shoot. So those last four felt way harder than the other ones, and not supposed to get to that point when doing a double threshold, but
Yeah.
yeah, but it was like, all right, cool. And I didn't look at that data until after the workout. Then you see that and you're like, oh shoot, yeah, like that makes sense why those last
Yeah.
four were tough.
That does make sense. Now you're a California guy, you know. You're Cal
Yeah.
Poly, Pomona, San Luis Obispo. If you had to like give some quick tips to people like us who are wanting to go do considering a stint at altitude, what would those quick tips be?
One, try to find every single way to optimize your sleep. So,
Sleep.
like,
Okay.
any anything you possibly can do to make yourself knock out, I think is gonna be key because the first week or so, I, like, stressed over sleep, especially because someone like us, like, we're blue collar. Like, I still had to get up for work in the morning
Right.
and still had to get in the 2 workouts or, like, the 2 runs and stuff like that. Sleep was a big one. I got big on magnesium gummies.
Mm,
I got big on melatonin. I got big on sleeping with a face cup, like an eye mask, so make
mm,
sure it's as dark as possible. Stretching a bunch. Um, One thing Raj put me on big time that I am now like bringing to even sea level is hydration mixes, like sodium loading.
mm,
So one thing that he pointed out to me, he was working with a nutritionist, and he was talking about how we put a big emphasis on carb loading, but we don't put enough of an emphasis on sodium loading. And so he said night before the what the nutritionist told him was, and again he's out there, so there's a lot of people that like it's a big endurance hub.
right.
So a big thing before the biggest session. So if you have a big long run or if you have a big track interval session or a big threshold session, the night before, take like a hydration supplement. So we were using a lot of like it was like this brand called Trace Hydration, and it had like 1,000 milligrams of sodium. And so you pop that the night before with some water, and helps you sleep a lot better because like you're not dehydrated and you're not getting up every hour to pee. And then in the morning you take another one. And then when you go work out, your legs feel so much poppier because you're like properly hydrated.
And you experienced that?
Yeah, and I did
Oh,
experience
nice.
that. I felt a lot better the days that I would do that, and and I'm a freak in the sense of like I like to A/B test on myself. Like, how do I feel when I take it? How do I feel when I don't? And like the difference in feeling flat and feeling poppy. And it may even answer some of my questions why in later in my career, like as a runner, when I haven't had a race in a while where my legs actually feel like they have some pop.
Mm.
And I do wonder, I did move away from sports drinks or like taking any actual like Pedialyte because I had one bad like stomach experience with a 10K when I did do that. So I stopped doing that. So I do wonder if that is the reason why in recent years I haven't had that like same pop to my legs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so that was kind of my next thought. My next question about the trace or the sodium loading specifically is it was that specifically sodium, primarily sodium that you were loading the night before, or
Yeah.
was there other? Because I imagine trace has to do with like trace element, like electrolytes.
Yeah. It was
It
a
was
electrolyte supplement.
okay,
And like the main thing that with like that holds electrolytes is sodium, salt.
okay,
So, yeah.
and so that was like more explicit because a lot of the sports drinks have some electrolytes in them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Gatorade comes to mind, Pedialyte comes to mind, but this
Yeah.
is like probably more and maybe like more absorbable or like more optimized.
Yeah, that's my guess. I'm not gonna pretend to be an expert on this. Like, I
Oh,
learned
okay.
about it like 5 weeks, like literally 5 weeks ago when I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, trust me, like this is what my nutritionist told me. And again, these are tips for altitude too. So like,
Right.
and you can feel the dehydration dramatically in the sense of like, um, I went through 2 bottles of freaking lotion for my skin because I'd wake up
Mhm.
and I'd look ashy, bro. I'd be looking like Kevin Durant, like got that skin.
Unkept.
Yeah, like I've been looking like Kevin Durant, so I was going through lotion like crazy, like trying to keep my body hydrated and like not itchy and stuff like that. So, but yeah, sleep,
Sleep,
sodium was big,
sodium,
and two, adjusting your paces is big.
adjusting your paces,
Yeah, and then four, dropping your ego once it comes to workouts.
dropping your ego. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that was the biggest one for me. So like, you see what other people
Yeah.
are doing, or like you see your friends working out, and you're like, yeah, I want to be doing, or I want to be hitting paces too. Or you see other people that have lived at altitude forever hitting certain paces. So I'm like, yeah, I should be able to do that. So one thing was I was looking at other Colorado guys and how they adjust their workouts, and I noticed a lot of them don't really adjust their workout paces. They just add more rest. So I thought like, maybe I'm one of those special breeds as well. And it's like, no, man, it's like
Hmm.
unless those guys have lived there for years, so they're adjusted to that. They've gone to the point where like Joe Klecker's at the point where the dude has to still sleep in an altitude tent because he doesn't get benefit from 5,000 feet anymore. So
So
like,
is he sleeping at like 12,000?
I think he has his set to like 10,
Dang.
but like a lot of those guys have been there for so long that it doesn't affect them as much. But like, unfortunately, not all of us are a special breed like that. So those are essentially the biggest takeaways for me. Where um, be going harder on the hydration, going harder on trying to get good quality sleep as you can, adjusting your paces and dropping your ego. Because, like, for example, I don't feel if I were to be here at sea level at Demo Man
Mm-hmm.
and Joe told me you're gonna do like 5 by 2K at 5:45 pace, I'd be like, dude, that's not a workout. Like that's a long run pace. But
Mm-hmm.
like up there, starting out my first couple workouts, like that was a workout. I was
Mm.
breathing hard. My heart rate
Yeah.
was higher than it should have been. So it's like, all right,
It also seems like it was a good, like, you learned a couple things that you want to bring back here too. I mean,
yeah,
you want to bring back the sodium, and I think also like adjusting paces is something that we need to do all the time, right? And if you're not
yeah,
in you can't have a golden mushroom workout every single weekend because it's just not
yeah.
sustainable. You have to, like we were talking about it after Silas ran. Shout out Silas, he ran 28:09, 28:08, something like that
No, it's 28:09.
in
Yeah,
the 10K. And like, he a couple weeks before he jumped in a workout that was great for like my pace and the people that I was running at the time. But I'm probably 2 to 3 minutes slower than Silas right now in the 10K. But like, he just wasn't having a great week that week, and just whatever was going on, and he just jumped in with us, and I think it was fine, and he just made that kind of call to adjust those paces, which I think is something that can definitely be applied at any elevation.
yeah, and I do think because that was something he and I were talking about too a little bit. Like, bro, we had been crushing workouts, like absolutely obliterating workouts from club cross
Yeah.
till February. Like we had some of our greatest workouts. Like I had some of the best workouts of my life, not even close during that build, and I wound up racing terribly. He had some of by far his best 1500 workouts, not even close, and he ran pretty like average in the mile and 3K. Like he didn't do anything heroic. And so he and I were talking about it. I'm like, do you think the fact that we crushed those 6 weeks of training or like that 8 week span, and then you kind of just took a month of backing off of workouts and just everything being kind of sustainable and maybe hitting one hard rep here and there, like, do you think that played into it mostly? He goes, "Oh yeah, like totally." He's like, "I think backing off after hitting like 8 weeks of hero workouts and then just backing off and letting your body recover and absorb everything." He's like, "I think that played the biggest role in what we did
Yeah.
or in what he did."
Yeah. Yeah. I think that pause, sort of that maturity, that
Yeah,
you the hay's in the barn, right? The hay's in the
yeah,
barn. We don't need to crush it 10 days out, 12 days out. You want to feel confident, right?
yeah,
um well, that's cool, man. It sounded like, did you have fun hanging out with Raj?
yeah. Overall, man, it was a good time. It was a really good experience. I think it was really nice to also look at running more objectively in the sense of like, shoot, I put so much time and effort into this thing, and I put so much care and like I don't know what the tense for the word dogmatic is, but like I put so much of that like dogmatic energy into it that like going out to Colorado and like trying to figure out what life could be like elsewhere. So I was going out more. I was like hanging out with like friends. I was going like out and stuff like that to bars and meeting people and talking to people and hanging out with like different people and stuff like that. And I think for me, having that social aspect and also having running and those two worlds on each side usually parallel each other to where like they never intersect. However, like for that 5 week stint, they intersected pretty well for me to where I wasn't too dogmatic about um my normal rituals I have. I wasn't too dogmatic about what time I was working out, what time I was running. Wasn't dogmatic about what time I had to be in bed, like, in
Mm,
terms of, having that, like, strict routine with myself and kinda just lived a little, and I felt like I came out the other side feeling a lot better in the sense of where I was able to look at everything and put my life into context and be like, "Okay, like, this running thing is something that I definitely still, like, love to do and
yeah,
want to do." But, like, also I think I can let loose a little bit more, like, in terms of, not being so strict with myself and not being
yeah,
so, like, hard on myself. So, I do think that it really brought things back into perspective for me and, was an experience that I really loved, really enjoyed having, really appreciated having, and it
yeah,
was nice to be away for a little bit and come back and, like, come back to routine, come back to my friends, come back to my training partners, all that kind of stuff.
yeah. Sometimes a little change like that can be really helpful. Just kind of break up the monotony and look at the same thing through a different lens.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But yeah, Colorado was fun. Definitely
Awesome.
could see myself going back there. But yeah, while I was gone, you yourself had a little bit of racing.
I did. I've
Yeah.
yeah.
So you kicked things off with the Reading 10 miler,
The Reading 10 miler,
and you came back with the Sactown 10.
and I came back with a Sactown 10 a month later. Yeah. So
Yeah. And
Reading
the
was
3K.
Reading
Yeah.
was in a what was that?
I said, and the 3K. You just
Yeah, the
dropped a vlog about that 3K. But yeah, let's
yeah.
start off with the Reading 10 miler. Tell me a little
Re-
bit about that.
yeah, so Reading 10 miler, early March. Reading is so far away, dude. It is from San Luis Obispo to Reading, Reading, California is closer to Portland, Oregon than it is San Luis Obispo. It's 2.5 hours north of Sacramento. And Sacramento is very far. I was just there 6 days ago. Sacramento's not close to slow. And
No,
Reading is like, think about how long it takes you to get home to SoCal. It's probably like 2.5, 3 hours, right? If there's no traffic,
like 3.5. Yeah.
3.5. So like it's, it, you're getting to Sacramento and then you almost have that same amount of drive that to get to, well, for me, for the Oxnard, it's 2 hours. So it's like more than, anyways. So anyway, I get up there
It was what,
and
8 hours, you said?
it's like 8 hours, 8.5 hours one way.
Yeah,
And I
just for
just went,
context, bro, that was the distance from Cedar City to Slow, like in Utah.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's another scale, dude. That's like
No, that's
that's
what I'm saying. That's how far it is.
oh
Like,
yes, that's how far it is
yeah, like
for
that's how far it is.
that's how far it is, dude.
Yeah,
And I drove up the day before and I came back the day of, the day of the
that's tough,
event. So I
man.
I stayed in a hotel and woke up. But yeah, that race was a great early season race. It was just a long run sort of tempo effort. I wasn't in very good shape. I ran like 52:30. Um I got second place, so I did get a little prize money, got some points on the Pacific Association circuit.
Nice.
Cameron Duquette, he ran really well. Um, those Chico guys, it was great. I've been racing with them a lot the past few weekends. They came down to the Conover Classic too. Yeah, so that one was like that race actually was kind of mid for me. I didn't feel great. I was looking at my watch and it was just like I was struggling to like run my marathon PR pace for like 10 miles. And the course wasn't very easy. Had a lot of turns and in some parts of it. It wasn't that hard. There was like one steep hill. But what my takeaway from that race was like you just got to get out there and do it sometimes.
Yeah,
You just have to like put something on the calendar and go on a mission. And I think I got a little bit of that, like maybe you got this too at altitude. You get a little bit of that Spartan sort of mentality when you're away. You're like, it's very like very purposeful while you're there,
yeah,
and it's just so much driving that you're just like in the car in your own head, just that like what Cam Levin's 3 workouts in a day flow track, workout Wednesday. You just go to a different place in your head when you have to be alone with yourself in a car for 17 hours and over a 24-hour period. And yeah, that ended up being fun. It was more sort of meta than it was a super flashy race. Um and then Conover Classic later in March, I ran the 3K. And I just put out a vlog on YouTube. Go check it out. it's first person. I got my GoPro or my action camera. I got commentary on there. It was pretty fun. That actually, I surprised myself a lot because coming out of the 10 miler, I was real mid. I was like, struggling to run 520s.
Yeah.
I'm like, I haven't even really broken 70 in a rep since before Lubbock, Texas, since before we went to, that was the last time I had like a fast workout. I'm like, how am I going to, if I haven't run 1/72nd quarter, how am I going to run anyways? I think there's enough lifetime miles. But that race was great. Craig got out and he was our pacer. Craig Engels was our pacer who ended up staying in the race. And I didn't really know what my expectations were. But kind of like a K to go, I started like, oh, okay. I'm feeling okay. I came through 425, 435, 436 through the 16 and like 700 to go. I pulled up on Engels' shoulder. I tried to get around him, but there's just a difference between professional athletes and I'm getting a little old there. So he ends up taking it, but that was a lot of fun. I really did surprise myself. I ran at 8:30 for second place, and it was like that's the fastest 3K I've run in a long time. And what does that translate? What's it 8:30 for a 3,200? Like 9
904.
904, 905, something like that. Like, that's not bad.
No, definitely not bad, man. Especially in racing flats.
Oh yeah,
Not.
I didn't wear super shoes. And honestly, I wasn't trying to be cute. I wasn't trying to be like sandbagging. I just I hadn't been training in spikes, and like one of Joe's emails, Coach Joe, he said like it's probably a good idea if you get out there and do some strides in your spikes if you're going to be racing in spikes, and I never did that. So I
Mhm.
just and I like the Cielo Road, their stack height for track workouts, versus the super shoes are a little bit like getting around turns a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it's not as smooth as the Cielo roads are, but yeah, that was fun. And then last week we had the Sactown 10 miler, which I've done a lot over the years. And you and I you were driving back from Colorado, and I was driving up there, so we were having some conversations when we had reception. um,
Yeah,
and
that was
you asked me and this is why it's great to have a team, because you would ask me like, what do I want to do? I'm like, well, I ran 52:30 in Reading, so why not just try to break 51? Try to improve like 30 seconds. And you're like, I don't see why you can't break 50. Like, and you laid it out. Like, you're like, you're probably in your standard like, Mesa, Arizona rock and roll like 64-minute shape. I'm like, oh, maybe you're right. Like, I did run 8:30 in a 3K. So that was like, that got me thinking, right? And I had 2 or 3 more hours of driving after that. I'm like, hey, maybe 5-minute pace isn't as scary as I'm making it out to be. And so sure enough, we get out there. It was great. It was a great race for me for where I am right now. It was, we just were running 5-minute pace, 4:57, just real clean through 5 miles. And I was feeling pretty good. We had a good group. Aero Doce, he was there. Daniel Tapia, Cameron Duquette from the Aggies, they're there. A couple other guys were in the pack. And, we were honestly like, there were parts of the first 5 miles that felt like a training run, and it felt real smooth. And then we got to the turnaround. Because it was an out and back, we got to about the 5 mile mark. And this dude just takes off. He just takes off. And he takes 2 guys with him. He takes Daniel and this other and Daniel and Arrow. They go with him, and me and Cameron sort of like get fall back a little bit. And then we just for the rest of the race, it was kind of me and Cameron back and forth. And honestly, I was really impressed with how Cameron ran. He ran really strong late in the race, and which was really cool to see, because he is a couple years out of college, and a lot of times that's when you know sort of you people who are getting some experience late in the race is a different whole nother animal, right? Like you talk about mile 10 of a half or mile 20 of a full, that later parts of the race is really where some of the experience comes in. And he ran really tough. He ran really tough.
Hey, man,
Huh?
hey, give him his flowers too. Crody ran a 5K PB like 2 days before.
Yeah, you're right. He ran a 5K. He ran a 5K personal best, or right near his personal best, just a day or two before on Friday.
Yeah,
So, it's cool to see that he's racing. Him and Brian Hastings are racing, and they're competing and they're traveling and they're doing well. But yeah, Cam looked really strong. I think he has a lot of potential on the roads if he wants to move up to the marathon in this next Olympic cycle. And that's just firsthand, you know, it, from what I've seen racing him in the past couple months. So
yeah,
that was a lot of fun. I really like that. Gave me a ton of confidence. I ended up running 49:48, and honestly, I don't have a ton of plans this spring. I want to just be consistent, and I want to be healthy and happy, and I really just want to get ready for the Masters um this fall when I turn 40, and which I just want to be like ready to go and ready to take that jump. But yeah, I have been. It's been nice. This is what we talked about, I think, shortly after the Lubbock, during the Lubbock podcast, was this is what I wanted to get back to, was this racing and this traveling and the team events, and it's nice to just be able to do it.
yeah. Be a part of it.
Yeah. Um. But yeah, on that note, what's up for next for you?
Yeah, man. So I already had my season opener, man. I was in Denver,
That's right.
and
Oh, you had a 2 mile.
so there was I got a random advertisement on Instagram that that I had seen pop up, and then Raj sent it to me too and was like, "Yo, you should check out this 2 mile race. Like, I don't know if anybody will show up, but they're giving out prize money if you set the course record and also for the win." So I was like, I can win a quick 600 like right now.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to do a workout that Friday night, but like I was feeling pretty bad. So I decided to push it to the next day and race Saturday morning. And so I had done a double threshold workout earlier that week. I was on pace to hit about like 90 miles that week.
Mm-hmm.
And I just rolled up to this park 2 mile. The course record was 9:22.
Oh,
So I
okay.
was like, I can do that shit in my sleep, dog.
Yeah.
And so I pull up and I'm warming up, doing strides, everything. I even got a little audacious with my warm up and did like a 5 mile warm up,
Oh,
like
nice.
4 or 5 mile warm up to get mileage in because I'm like I'm only going to get a 2 mile race and then maybe some minute on minutes on after, and I didn't want to double either. So I was like, all right, I need to get some volume in. So I did a 5 mile warm up with some pickups and lined up, and I get out and I'm in the back of the pack, and I'm like, there's maybe like 22 people there, dude, and I'm in the back of the pack, and we come through the mile, and I'm like fighting for dear life through the mile, and I come through at 4:32,
Oh
I'm
man.
and I'm at the back of this like pack of 5 people, and so I decide, all right, it's time for me to make a move, and I make a move. I wind up closing in a 4:27 mile, and I get sent to freaking Gapplebee's, bro. Like, I think I ran like 8:59
Oh
at
man.
altitude in a park on a random Saturday morning,
Oh
and like
man.
didn't take it seriously, but like I had I known that in hindsight, I might have taken that thing a little more seriously, man. I might have done a traditional 15-minute warm up, like eaten my standard pre-race
Yeah.
breakfast, had the extra cup of coffee, like done everything like a normal race, but like totally thought I was gonna win. I wound up finishing fourth, so I don't even make the podium and walk away with no money.
Oh man.
So
That's tough.
I felt like a loser, dude. I felt like such
Dude,
a
dude,
loser.
but that's how it goes, man. I've I've been there, dude. It's like you think it's gonna be easy money. You're gonna tempo it, and you're just gonna make all this money, and you know, a lot of the time it doesn't end up that way. It's tough out there.
Yeah, dude, I felt like a loser, dog, just because
Oh man.
I thought I was gonna roll up and like crush it. But yeah, so but it was honestly a pretty good feeling still running that time at a park,
Yeah.
like on a random Saturday at altitude, and it was like my second week, or was that my first week? That was my second week there. So it was like, okay, cool. Like, not a bad time. If I can come through that, like feeling pretty relaxed during track season on a track, like
Yeah.
an 8:59 2 mile during a 10K or something like that, or
Hmm.
even maybe if you convert it to sea levels, like an 8:42 2 mile or something like that. So I'm like, if I can come through that feeling pretty smooth in a
Yep.
5K, like that is money. That's 13:30 pace.
Yep. There
So
you go.
in hindsight, 2020, like really happy with that performance. So next race for me will be actually on Thursday um, at Brian Clay. I'm
Ryan
gonna
Clay.
5K.
Yep.
And I honestly don't have any expectations for it. I really think I can run very well. Like my first workout back at sea level was 400s at like we started at 3K pace down, and me and Silas got down to a 57 on the
Oh,
last one.
nice. Nice.
So and it felt comfortable. Like every rep, like if I can run 60s and 61s feeling that comfortable, like I'm ready to freaking roll in a
Yeah.
race right now. And then closing my last one in a 57 was about as good as a 57 could feel. Like for me in terms of like feeling comfortable. So the elevation and the extra boost in natural EPO really paid off. So I'm really hoping I can run something
Yeah.
that I'm proud of. It doesn't have to be a PB, but like I just want to get out there and compete. I want to put myself in it. I haven't done that in a while. I always feel like I'm tactically racing the clock rather than people. And I've taken the competition aspect out of it. And I started realizing like all my best races that I've had lately have just been where like, I'm running for something greater than myself. So like Club Cross, I thought I performed very well. And it was because it was like I need to be up there because I'm scoring for my team
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So I kind of just need to start competing for place rather than competing for time. And I know it sounds like a no duh, but like the way races play out now, a lot of them are time trials. So really looking forward to that at Brian Clay. And then the next day I'm racing a 1500 at Mount Sac. And I really just,
The next day, like,
yeah. So I'm racing a 5K on Thursday night and then a 1500 on Friday night.
oh, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that should be manageable.
Yeah. I
That
think
wait, so they're the same weekend this year?
Yeah, they're the same weekend. They normally are. I think last year was an exception, but
Oh,
Brian Clay has an interesting schedule this year because it's Easter on Sunday,
right,
so they're
right.
Wednesday to Friday for this year.
Wednesday to Friday, so they have races start on Wednesday. Wow, that's in a
Yeah.
couple. That's coming up here. And then so Mount Sac the day after Brian Clay, and then what do we got?
After that, I have Oxy on the schedule.
The like May 2nd, something like that. May 3rd,
Yeah, like May 4th,
May
something
4th.
like that. I'm gonna do a 1500 there and probably potentially double back in the 5K for like a workout, like
Yep.
just to get another hard effort in, and then I'll do my first real attempt at like, okay, I want a PB, like for sure.
Yeah.
5K at Trackfest. So
And is that in June?
no, Trackfest will be late May.
Late May. Okay.
Yeah. And then after that, I'm very so I might end up going to Flagstaff for June just because I was talking to Craig about that, Angles, and
Hmm.
he was telling me he was going to be there for some time. So I was like, yeah, that could be pretty cool before Portland, just because I can get another 3 week stint and get more legal EPO in my body,
Hmm.
and then go to Portland because Portland this year is June 24th or something like that. Like it's late June this year. It's not the first week anymore. So I might do that to get another altitude stint in,
Hmm.
and then try to hit a good 10K. I mean, shit, Silas just ran 28:09, and like I train with him all the time. So in my head, it's like, well, I should be able to do that too.
You can, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so for me, I do think locking in for a little bit before and being in a place where I can drop down to sea level and do real hard work, and do like real hard workouts.
Hmm.
I think that could be very beneficial. But that's the tentative schedule.
Yeah.
There's the opportunity to potentially go race in Minnesota again if they decide to fly me out. I could
Mm,
go do that, so I could also go like visit my coworkers and stuff like that.
that's cool.
But yeah, right now the tentative plan is potentially Flagstaff for June, most of June, and then race Portland.
Nice. And you would find a place with Craig to stay?
No, he's gonna be in his RV probably.
Oh.
Yeah, I would have to find a just a room to stay.
Okay.
It's like I can afford to drop like a cool 700 real quick and stuff like that. So or like
Balla.
100. I mean, it's cheaper than than paying rent somewhere else. So it's like, all right, cool. I should be able to manage that.
Yeah.
Also, shout out our sponsor, our generous sponsor Hoka. Also, we get our stipends, so I can
Oh,
use
yeah.
that and get it
That's true.
reimbursed. All right. Next thing I want to talk about, kind of the
Yes.
elephant in the room. I guess
Yes.
not really an elephant in the room, but the hot button topic right now being Grand Slam track and field.
Yes. Yes. Our uncle Michael Johnson.
Hey, shout out Unc, bro.
Yeah. He got this plan going and he's really promoting it. Initial thoughts on it. Well, first off, I want to give a little bit of background on what Grand Slam track is. It's a track and field series for professional athletes. They're all pretty much Olympic quality. There's 4 races in Kingston, Miami, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles, and there are multiple groups. There's short sprints, short hurdle, long hurdles, short distance, long distance. And it's broken up into 4 racers and 4 challengers. So the 4 racers are going to be consistent throughout all the slams, all 4 of the meets. And then the challengers are going to sort of rotate in, from what I understand. And each event group has 2 races over the weekend. So for example, short distance is the 800 and the 1500. Long distance is the 3K and the 5K, and they get points based off of their finishing place, with 12 points for first, 8 points for second, and all the way down to 1 point for eighth place. And the cumulative score of those 2 races over the weekend, the highest score wins, and then filters down based on how many points you score, with $100,000 going to the winner for each event group. And then the eighth place, last place, still gets 10,000. You know,
Bad man, not bad.
so that's just a very quick. I was looking over the rules. There's actually a ton of rules, like in terms of like if you can't run your second race, but you can go check that out on the website if you'd like. But I what I really liked about it, my first thing that I saw was I got home from work on Friday and track and field was on Peacock, right? It was
Yeah,
just on regular television. Like back in the day, dude, like if we want to watch Diamond League or if you wanted to watch any of the European races, you had to like stream off some sketchy website, torrent file. Like it was not easy to get like actual professional track that wasn't the Olympics.
and
And
then
the
time
fact,
zone,
huh?
and then time zone.
In the time zone, right? You'd have to like 3 a.m. in Monaco or whatever. You'd have to like get up and or whatever, stay up. And like it was so wow, track and field was on. It was like a baseball game was on. It was like a MLB spring game was on my television. And that was like my first reaction. It was like I got home from work and Grant Fisher was racing the 5K.
Yeah, no, that definitely was sick. And that's the thing too. It's not like just track and field was on. It was a track and field event you want to watch.
Yeah.
You know what
And
I
it was the
mean?
people that I wanted to watch.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I do think that like so I do think that the fact that it was people that and events you were excited for, like every single thing and the newness of it all, also made it exciting because like
Yeah.
it's unpredictable. It was literally championship racing.
It was literally championship racing. It was no heats, no rounds, things like
Yeah.
that, and there's some strategy.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like my initial like takeaway was is overall pretty positive because it was so accessible and the production was good. We had Sonia Richards Ross and Matt Centrowitz in like the halftime kind of
Yeah.
like they were talking between the events, I guess.
Yeah, like NBA on TNT type of.
Yeah, and I was kind of geeking out on that because since I spent some time commentating last spring. What they were doing was they had a commentator, they had a play-by-play, which was like what Steve Cram and like
Yeah.
Kerry Tollefson. So they were doing the live racing, but when the race was over, they would cut to Centro and Sonia for
Yeah.
like the breakdown of the race and the preview of the next race. So it was this cool. The production value was very good. And they had, I mean, solid 2 hour block of coverage too.
Yeah, no, it was sick. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed the events. Like, to be plain and simple, I wasn't too sure exactly how I was going to feel about it. I do think there are still some holes in it with the longer
Yeah.
distance,
Yep.
but like again, it's the first one.
Yep.
Um, we didn't expect it to happen the way that it played out in terms of like the scoring system and stuff like that. I know they caught a lot of flack for Grant basically sandbagging the 3K and just racing for third. But like at the same time, no one imagined that like Hagos Geberuet was gonna finish fourth and then now he could go out and win it. You know what I mean? Like go out
Yeah.
and win the 3K and like Grant has to get third to win. So
Yeah.
like there's I've heard a lot of complaints around that in terms of like he's gaming the system. But I thought that made it more exciting too because it's like, okay, not only are you watching can Hagos Geberuet win the race, but like now you're paying attention to the second pack because it's like, okay, Hagos is for sure gonna win.
Yeah.
The Kelly's getting second. Now, like, can Grant get third to win the slam? He has to outkick Cooper Tier, who almost beat him in the 5K.
Yep.
It's like it created all of these storylines and it created all of these like side kind of it made you care about the totality of the race and the outcome of each finisher rather than just like who won.
Yeah.
And like, after you see who wins or who medals, it's like, all right, you move on. You don't
Yep.
care what fifth or sixth place did, but like Hagos Geberuet was like, yeah, I can't lose to Dylan Jacobs.
Yeah.
Like I have to beat Dylan Jacobs, like of all people. Dylan Jacobs wound up finishing like seventh in that race or sixth, but like in the moment that Dylan Jacobs was enemy number one, they were like, yeah, we can't lose to him.
Yep. Yeah. It did make for some very tactical racing in the 5K too.
Yeah,
Grant had pulled off the victory in 14:39,
yeah,
which is, you know, I mean, there was I
yeah,
saw yeah, that's not very fast, but what I did appreciate about it was that, you know, you still have to race, you know, you still have to race and you have to get to the line, and it's you know, there's probably people that are going to say, you know, compare this to, you know, Diamond League or the Grand Prix in the US, or like the sound running events where they have the pacing and the lights. And I don't think that that's the goal of this. You know, it's
yeah.
not necessarily world records, but to have uh heads up competition of all the people that you want to see.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's what made it really exciting. But I do think the event that lived up to the most hype was the 1500 800 group.
Yeah.
And that's not just being biased because I'm a distance runner. Like
Right.
the sprints were pretty predictable. Like Kenny Bednarek just killed everybody. He
Yeah.
just slammed everybody. He's the like I feel sprints is a little more black and white in terms
Yeah.
of shape right now, but
Like, yeah. Like
like the
Sydney was like practice, dude. It was
she choke slammed everybody, dude. Like it wasn't close, and they ran like relatively slow times to what they normally run.
yeah.
It's just the nature of sprints. I feel like
Yep.
sprints, you don't have as big of a window to be peaked. You need more time to. You need races to acclimate to getting faster, and they're probably peaking for September
Hmm.
this year rather than having to be ready in June, July. So for them, like it doesn't make much sense for them to be super sharp and able to race. But as distance runners, it's a little easier to be, I think, more well rounded year round.
Hmm.
But like that 1500 800 group, I thought was the most exciting just because you had won the big three in terms of the medalists
Yep.
and from 1500. Then you had the Olympic silver and gold medalist as
Yep.
the
For
as
the
other
800.
yeah in the 800 you had Bryce Hoppel who
Bryce
was
Hoppel was fourth, right?
fourth, yeah,
Yeah.
arguably should be a medalist.
Yeah.
But and then you had the random guy from on I guess he did real well at Paris, but I did not recognize him. I'm going to be
M-
honest there.
what Atatui or
Yeah, Ratatouille.
yeah.
But
And you had Gurley. Yeah, was he a finalist in the 15 in Paris?
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah.
Neil Gorley, he's a dog, bro. Like
He
he's
is, yeah.
because
He's
what's he?
good.
Run? He's got a 347 or 346 mile and 144 800.
Yeah.
So Neil Gorley actually had the best 800 PB of all the milers.
And strangely, he was the best Brit, or the best, not Brit, but best UK athlete in the
Yeah,
race.
yeah. But I thought it lived up to the hype. That 1500 was exciting. We saw young Wayne come
Yep.
away with the 1500 victory, which I think shocked people, but also hearing reports that he ran a 3:38 in Eldoret like a couple weeks before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's impressive. Eldoret's at like about 7,000 feet.
Yeah. So Emmanuel Wanyoni, Wanyoni, he won the 1500, right? He's the Olympic gold medalist in the 800. He won
Yeah.
the 1500. So, like, what your Cole Hawker, your Yard Nagoose, your Josh Kerr, how what's your plan going into Miami for the next slam to take on this guy, him and Marco for that fact? Like, they're so fast at that top end. You just have to gas it.
600 to go, man.
Yeah.
You gotta make a longer race. I think, like, because if you look at like Nagoose, you look at Cole, they're stronger than they are fast right now,
Yeah.
and it showed in the 800. Like, bro, we had half the field slower than 148. Given that it also was a gnarly headwind, but like they're stronger right now than they are fast. So I think for them, like, which is ironic to say because they still closed in 52. Like, and it's funny because so many people said Josh Kerr had a bad day in the 1500, but like, dude, he closed in a 52.3.
And he
Like,
still ran 335.
yeah, in a 52.3, meaning like in most, like 99% of races, he's
Right.
winning with that closing split, no matter who's in it.
Right.
It just happened to be everybody else like gamed up for it. But I think if you're those guys, you're going from a ways out. Because if you look at Hawker, he didn't have his instantaneous speed that he normally has. It took him a
No.
while to rev up. Like he got gapped and then came back on the inside. But like I do think for someone like Cole, someone like Yard, you got to go from like 600 out. You can't wait till 300 to go again.
Yeah. I think Yard was trying to do that. He ended up getting second.
Yeah,
I think that's your move. And what is your strategy for the 1500 guys in the 800?
shoot, hang on for dear life,
Is
man.
it
You know,
just hang on and try to hope for somebody has a bad day? Like, because
yeah,
it was very distinct in that 800. You had the 800 dudes up front. You had Wanyoni and Marco Arop and Bryce Hoppel up front, and then you had the rest of everyone else. And like, it was very apparent that it was divided up, right? So
yeah.
you think they just get out and hang on?
I mean, what's your alternative? I mean, the only thing I can think of is if like you kind of have to play like if your goal is to win the slam, you have to play it into trying to finish as high as you could in the 1500 and then mitigate the damage in the 8. So like they're saying the most optimal way to run the 8 now is even splits, which Aerope did. He ran 52 point or something like that, or like 52.53 low. So like I think if you're a 1500 guy, like let's say if you're a Yard and you saw Aerope got like second to last in the 15 and Hopple got last in the 15, like okay, I don't need to beat those guys essentially in the 5, I mean in the 800, I just need to beat all the 15 guys.
Mm-hmm.
But and I think that's what it came down to in the slam because who won it? When Yoni won, second was Nagoose, third was
Mm-hmm.
Hawker. And
Yep.
that's just because when Yoni went 1 and 2. So like at this point it's like you can't do anything about when Yoni in the 800, you're probably not beating him, but you have to be able to mitigate his impact in the 1500.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's fast.
It's why Emmanuel, he has this sort of like, it's the ball's in his court right now
Yeah.
because he's so strong in the 800. The 1500 guys really don't have a super strong chance of beating him, but
Mhm.
he also is shown that he can hang with the 15 guys in the 1500 and still
Yeah.
have that top end speed at the end. So I think him, and even Arop, I think those two guys are going to be tough to get around for our 1500 dudes in the 1500.
Yeah. But, like if I'm a Yard, probably Yard in particular, even like a Cole,
I think
like
Yard and Cole, yeah.
yeah, like your goal, like you have to strategically almost use the other 1500 guys as like And that's not a shot at Gorley. It's not a shot at Kerr saying they don't have a chance to win it either.
Yeah.
But like if you're, let's say some of these stronger guys, you almost want to use them as human shields in the
Yeah.
sense of like if you're Cole or Yard trying to win these race, you gotta
Yeah.
hope those guys place like displace Wanyoni to fourth or fifth,
Yeah.
so that when you come back in the
Totally.
eighth and Wanyoni's a favorite to win the eight, it's like okay, I am now relying on a rope to beat Wanyoni. So like Marco, you do your thing. Now, if I'm Cole or I'm Yard, like now I just have to beat these 1,500 guys that
Yeah.
also beat Wanyoni because he's not going to be able to get enough points. And you got to just kind of hope Wanyoni doesn't win the eight. So it's almost like you benefit more from making it fast, even if that results in you getting second. Like you will benefit more from making the race fast and
Right.
displacing the 800 guys
Yeah, and
and then
maybe
keep
getting
them
they
punching
get fewer points because like it's so incentivized to win because
out. Mhm.
first place is 12 points and second place is 8 points. So it is very incentivized. It's
Yeah.
I was looking at all of the race groups and everyone who won a slam this weekend for the weekend is one of the races. You know,
Yeah.
so
Like
like
no one got second twice.
no one got second twice. No one's winning with 16 points. So, you know, you those first places are very valuable. And one thing as we're talking, Wanyoni is a contender. He's a challenger.
Yeah, he's not a signee.
He's not a signee, so he might not
No.
even be in the next slam.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw they signed, Timothy Chariot already.
oh yeah, I saw that too. That's going to be a
But
good ad. Oh, that was another question I want to ask you. What would be some good ads to this group? Because you have as the regulars, you have Marco Arop, Yard Nagoose, Cole Hawker, and Josh Kerr as
well,
your
elephant in the room, Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
yeah.
I
But
mean,
you
what's ironic about
yeah.
Ingebrigtsen is that Kerr said, "I would love to watch Jakob run an 800. He'd look like a baby deer on ice." It's like, motherfucker, you got dead last. Like, you ran a 150 dog. Like, you
Uh
look like a deer on ice, but
yeah. It's interesting. That was an interesting comment because doesn't Kerr have the indoor 2 mile record now?
he does, yeah.
You know, so he's been doing longer over distance stuff too. Anyways, I I so I think Jakob would be good. I don't know. I
Nels
didn't see huh
Laros from
Laros.
the
Ooh yeah
Netherlands, he's got a 144 PB in the
yeah.
800.
You know Jake Whiteman, but is he what's he been up to?
He pulled his hamstring the week before British champs, and then
Mm,
pulled his hamstring again the week before the Olympics.
ah, so he's. Do we know if he's been consistent lately?
I think he's back, but
Okay.
I don't see. That was the thing. He was supposed to race New Balance, and he wound up getting hurt again. New Balance
Mm.
indoor, so he didn't race the whole indoor season. So he might be out a little bit. But yeah, Whiteman would be a dog because he's got I think a 143.
Yeah, I think Jake Whiteman would be a good ad. Um,
Yeah, who else is pretty well rounded in that sense? I mean, Ollie Hoare,
yeah.
he's running like 146, 329.
What about there's a lot of on guys that are all from different countries. Mario?
Yeah, Mario once he gets healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just coming back. He'd be a pretty good one too. Hey, shout out hey, our boy Craig, dude.
Yeah. Angles.
Yeah.
Vincent Ciotti.
Vincent Ciotti would be a great
He
one.
would
Yeah.
be a great ad, dude, because he's feisty. He gets in there.
Yeah, those Virginia Tech boys, man.
Yeah. Who would be some good ads for the long distance? For the so the racers for the long distance group, Grant Fisher, Hagos, Telehun Haile Bekele, and Ronald
Wemboy.
Quemoy. Yeah,
Yeah.
those
Okay,
are the
so
regulars.
my hot take is I think they should add some more leg speed guys to that one to incentivize faster racing. Like,
Oh,
and what I mean by that is like throw in those more 15 5K type of dudes.
that's what I was thinking, dude. Like, I mean, Cole Hawker and Yard Nagoose it would probably do fine in the long distance group the way it's been
Yeah.
running.
I mean, Hawker ran 12:57
Yeah,
indoor. And then Nagoose has run 13:01.
yeah,
Like they're more than capable, and I think they would spice things up, especially putting them in there. I think if Luis Grijalva was healthy, he'd be a
yeah.
good one to be in there. But
What about Nico?
Nico, I think he'd get waxed.
Yeah.
honestly, but I mean, he's run
Okay.
12:51 this year, so but,
Um,
do you think guys I would like to see, like, an Ethan Strand in there, dude.
mm, oh,
Um,
dude.
like,
Yeah.
an Ethan Strand in there, like, bro, dude closed in a 25
Yeah.
in the 3K, like, for NCAAs, and
What about
they've
the yeah, Gary
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 Martin.
Gary Martin?
Yeah, I would like to see some of the more speedy dudes just because that would incentivize sooner moves. Like, is Grant confident he could outkick Ethan Strand? Like, probably not.
Mm,
Like,
no,
I
I mean,
don't know that he
yeah.
can outkick that, and Grant, yeah, he did close in a 51-7, but,
Yeah.
like, dude, these dudes are closing stupid fast for that last 200, but
Yeah.
I'd like to see
Uh,
Ethan Strand in there. I'd like to see,
who's our boy who always shows up in the 10K?
for the US?
Yeah, for the U. He always makes the team.
Oh, Woody Kincaid?
Yeah, Woody.
Yeah, Woody would be a good addition.
I mean, he
Just
does
because
make for exciting races.
yeah. Yeah. You know who, like, who would thrive in these situations would be, like, a Mo Farah.
Oh yeah, Mo.
Mo in his prime. Yeah, that'd be sick, but yeah.
2012 Mo, dude. There's a difference. He's a different beast, dude.
Yeah.
Um,
I do think that I don't really like the 5K, 3K sorta deal, but
yeah, they have to iron that out.
I really wish it was a 15 5K.
That yeah, 15.5. The thing one of my few sort of areas of improvement for the slams is I do think there's some redundant racing here. I think that the in the short sprints and the short hurdles, they both run a flat 100,
Yeah.
you know?
Same thing with the long sprints and the short sprints. They both run at 200.
Yeah, the long sprints and the short sprints run the 200. So it's kind of like it- there's this are you really getting the best 200-meter runners, right? Is Gabby Thomas going up against the best 200-meter runners if they're in the short sprint realm, so I
Yeah.
think they got to iron that out. I was encouraged to that Sydney is open to doing other event areas moving forward, because
Well, yeah,
I
no,
was like,
she's doing short hurdles next race.
is she doing the short hurdles in Miami?
Yeah.
Dude, that's what people want to see. It's like I just think of like all the kids in high school who are watching, like people like Sydney, and like, hey kids, she's not just doing her ideal event. She's having to go down to the short hurdles or run an open 100 or run an open 200 and to score points. And for Sydney, she gets $100,000 when she wins. But I think the bigger picture here is like you go and you score at league meet, or you score at CIF, or you score at the dual meet in an event that's not your favorite, but you got to do it. So I kind of like that sort of vibe.
So you want to know what my thought is for the long distance? How I think they can save the 5K. I want to hear your thoughts. Feel free to throw tomatoes if you don't like it. But like, I do think for something like the 5K, what if instead of just 4 challengers, they had 8 challengers? But here's the thing: you have the 4 racers,
Mm-hmm.
4 challengers, but you have 4 challengers that are only tied to one event for long distance.
Oh, so they would have to have their own like side pot,
Well,
because it's cumulative points of both races. Is
yeah. So like they would have their own side pot, or they'd be able to probably get like an appearance fee. But what I think those 4 additional racers would do, like let's say they're only 5K runners
mm-hmm.
or they're only 3K runners, is that incentivizes them to run hard because it's their one race, right?
Yeah.
And then in the 3K too, like if those racers are coming back tired and you have some fresh guys running the 3K, that's going to make it fast too. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that would make it interesting because like they have nothing to lose. They're probably not going to let it go 14:39. It's like I'm not beating Grant in a one-off 5K. I'm not beating Hagos in a one-off 5K.
No.
What if yeah, would that incentivize them to do like riskier things? What if you threw like an Abdi Nur
Yeah.
in just the 5K
Yeah.
and that's just one race of the night?
I think I think that they need to refine the distances a little bit, because the 5 kilometers and even the 3K, they're not the same as the 100 meters or the hurdles, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not just stacking up the lanes there. It's like honestly, the 5K looked like a very small heat. It looked like very like Because what's the final at the Olympics? Is it 12 or is it 16?
Like 16.
Yeah, it's like
Or like
16. Dude, I mean, back in the day, back in the mid 2000s, I was in the those heats of the 5K at Mount Sac that had like 40 dudes in it.
yeah.
So, it's who's their distance? It's Kyle Merber's helping MJ out with some of the
Yeah.
distance stuff. So, yeah, I think there's some stuff there that the world of the distance runner, especially like 5K, 10K, is very different than how regular track and field operates.
Yeah.
But I love that it sparks all this like conversation, right?
Yeah.
But
Because
overall, yeah. What was that?
I said because it's exciting.
It is exciting. It is exciting.
Overall, like if we're gonna walk away with anything, I don't want to come off like we're criticizing the dang event. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I do
Yes.
think that it is nice to, and I think the biggest takeaway that I have from it and that I've heard around, despite people criticizing it, is everybody's looking forward to the next one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody wants to know what's going to happen at the next one already.
Dude, I might look at some tickets to this Los Angeles one at UCLA.
Yeah,
Like,
I think, and I'm just going to say it, like, I think as track and field fans, we almost have a responsibility to go to the ones we can.
I feel like I feel like you're right. It has this championship quality. It seems like a grown-up version of what we've been doing in middle school, high school, and college, having to score points, right? Having to show up and double back the next day when you're tired in an event that you don't really love. I just think that we've, as track and field people, we just have been doing this forever, and now there's this cool outlet for it.
Yeah, and the reason why I say I feel we have a responsibility to go and support is because, bro, we've been complaining about not having something like this for so long.
Yes.
We finally have it, and we're gonna hate on it. Like,
yeah. No,
man, let's go support.
No, yeah. Obviously, there's going to be armchair quarterbacks for every sport, but I largely, I love what MJ's doing.
Yeah,
he's creating this fun series of racing, and I still, and the last race is the end of June, so they still have when's Worlds? It's like September this year, or is it October? When is it?
USA's is, well, let's just start with when's USA's. That's August 8th.
August 8th. So they're gonna have all of July, and so they have 5 weeks till USA, so they still have time to prepare themselves, recover,
sharpen
up. And I think, yeah, Prefontaine's gonna be in there somewhere too, right?
Yeah, I saw Yard and Jakob are headlining.
Yeah. So we're still gonna have the your legacy Diamond League meets, but yeah, dude, shout out MJ and Grand Slam for making track exciting.
Yeah.
But that said, I think that's a good episode. What do you think?
I think that's good, man. It was great to get back on the wagon, man.
Great, but getting back on the wagon, great touching base with you, and yeah. Thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to Lane One for more fun content. Peace out.
Peace.